So Phoenix, oh my god, they look terrible. They look absolutely terrible. Like, Phoenix ended the regular season so well, to the extent that they were favored against the Minnesota Timberwolves. Before we get on to the main part of the video, if you guys are new to the channel, please subscribe. We're trying to hit 500 subscribers, and we're going to upload more basketball content than anywhere else. Whether you guys agree with me or disagree with my takes, hate watching's a fun thing to do as well. I would really appreciate if you guys could subscribe, because it will help out an absolute ton in order to get monetized on this channel. But anyway, now on to talking about why the Suns has been a disaster. And I'm not gonna lie, I had Phoenix winning. Like, I didn't know how good the Timberwolves were gonna be. The Timberwolves didn't look great in a couple of games that Cat played at the end of the regular season. It's always tough to integrate like a player as big as Cat back into your team after a long injury. And I still just didn't know how him and Gobert were gonna play in the playoffs together. Pretty well is the answer. I didn't expect Jaden McDaniels to be as good as he is. I knew he was good, but like, I didn't think he was going to be that good offensively. But the Phoenix Suns, I understand the series doesn't start until a team wins on the road, but this team looked lost. They looked lost. Like, I tweeted out at the start of the year or right after the Beal trade, if you guys can see behind me right now, a ChatGPT thing about there being one basketball in Phoenix, and being like, why would they trade for Bradley Beal? And it's the truth. It's the truth. Like, they gave up Chris Paul, who, like, I don't think Chris Paul's that good, but he's a better fit than Bradley Beal. They gave up Chris Paul and other assets for Bradley Beal, who was never going to fit. People are like, oh, Booker's going to play the point guard. Booker's going to play the point guard, man. The three of them on the floor together, they can score the ball at times. They couldn't score yesterday. This is like the Durant, as bad as the GM is, the Durant is the worst GM in the history of basketball. Durant literally, all he wants to do as a GM is just surround himself with ISO scorers and just go play pickup ball. And it doesn't work. It doesn't work. If you look at what Durant has had any input in, he had no input in what was going on in Golden State. He didn't have much input in OKC. But since then, he's gone to Brooklyn, where they forced the big three of 3 isolation scorers. And Kevin Durant, ironically, is at his best when he's not playing off the ball, not an isolation scorer. Like, when he was able to not be the focal point in Golden State, he was the most efficient scorer we've ever seen. They couldn't bring double teams. He was unguardable. And Kevin Durant is still, by the way, unguardable in a lot of scenarios where there's like ball movement and team ball. But like, he's put himself in situations where it's just ISO ball. And the Phoenix Suns aren't equipped to do anything else. They have no depth. They have no real depth. They're paying Grayson Allen now like $25 million a year. They're paying Grayson Allen like he's a borderline max. I was about to say borderline max player. It's like half a max. They're paying Grayson Allen like he's Mikal Bridges. That's basically it. They're paying Grayson Allen like he's Mikal Bridges. And he's tied up. Phoenix are screwed. They're screwed. They're screwed worse. They're screwed worse than what Brooklyn were. The Phoenix Suns made the NBA Finals 3 years ago. The only team to win 60 games 2 years ago. And now, they have Kevin Durant added to the team. Bradley Beal added, but are worse. They're much worse. And it's just always a case of talent can win, but fit matters so much. Like, Kevin Durant was a perfect fit with the Warriors, mainly because he decided to sacrifice any sort of real like isolation scoring. He sacrificed his isolation scoring. He sacrificed the amount of shots he took, but scored more efficiently. He played more defense. He became one of the best help defenders in the NBA and a not terrible on-ball defender. And I know he tore his Achilles, but like, you guys saw what he did in 2021. Like, the guy can still hoop. The guy can still absolutely hoop. The guy can still score. I think if the USA win the Olympics, a lot of it's going to be going through Kevin Durant because his game suits FIBA basketball so well, as we saw in the last Olympics. But at the same time, why he greenlit Bradley Beal? I get it, Chris Paul was a tough contract to move. But like, Bradley Beal's one of the most overpaid players in the NBA. And I get Nurkic. But like, surely there's a scenario where you could have gotten Drew Holiday in that Dame trade. Like, he was involved in they were involved in the Dame trade. Surely there's a scenario where Instead of Grayson Allen coming, you can get Drew Holiday. Surely you can ship CP3 somewhere in an extra pick and get Drew. Because if Drew Holiday's there with Booker and Kevin Durant, then we're looking at, and especially if you could somehow find a way to reroute Nurkic there as well, or a Nurkic level player, that's the best. That's one of the best teams in the NBA. That might be the second best team in the West. But they got Bradley Beal instead. They had no problems with scoring, so they added more scoring and took away from their depth. They took away from what they needed to get better at, to get more of what they're good at. And I just don't understand it. Just like I didn't understand the Kyrie Irving trade at the time, it's been a good trade in hindsight, because what the Mavs have done is they've added like a PJ Washington type, just wing forward hybrid shooter. And then they've added 2 legit pick and roll big men in Daniel Gafford and Eric Lively, who go to the basket. And you do have a Maxi Kleber, who when they're not in the playoffs, who when teams are able to kind of sit off them, is a legitimate stretch 5 who plays defense. So the Mavs are better equipped now than they were last year, but it didn't make sense at the time for them. But the difference is that they made the Beal trade, but they have no opportunities to get better. They have absolutely none. The amount of money that's going into that team, they've got 3 dudes on a max, Nurkic and Grayson Allen making like $25 million a year. They're screwed. They're absolutely screwed.